I got this Dayton bench grinder. It is heavy, all cast iron, really, really well built. And it still works, except when I turned it on the first time, the motor starting capacitor just blew out because it was so old. So the thing ran for about 10 seconds, then the capacitor went. So I'm going to try to fix this and make it run again with a new motor starting capacitor. So tip it, and you can see right there, that's what we're working on today. Now, let's pop the old one out. It's got this little clamp here. And I think the first thing that I'm going to do is try to figure out how to connect this. Now there's 3 wires here, and this new capacitor I got on eBay for $2.47, which is kind of why I'm doing this. What do I have to lose, right? I have a grinder that doesn't work and a $2 capacitor. So this has 2 terminals. This has 3 wires, but these 3 wires are connected to 2 terminals. So what I'm going to do, connect these 2 wires to that terminal and this to that one, and this does not seem to have any polarity on it. And again, what do I have to lose? All right, so to keep track of things, I'm going to cut these 2 wires, and I don't have a lot of wire to work with, and I don't really want to put in new wire, so I'm just going to strip the wire as well as I can. There's one. Strip this wire as well as I can. I used to have a really good set of wire strippers, but I don't know where they are now. So I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. All right, so we have 2 wires here. I'm going to twist, what's that little black thing? Piece of insulation. I'm going to twist these wires together. And then I'm going to cut the other one off. The old capacitor, chuck that in the garbage. I got it right in the bag and it didn't fall on the floor and roll across my kitchen. Just in case you wondered what happened off the screen there. Alright, so now here's our other lead. Now these wires are old and it'd probably be a good idea to replace them. But I don't really care that much. So, what I'm going to do, take my multi-screwdriver and use that to wrap the wire around it a little bit, put a curve in the wire, and do that with the other one. These wires are really thick. You'd think that they'd put bigger terminals on the capacitor. Oops, that came apart. Alrighty then. Now, I'm going to loosen these terminals. They're already pretty loose. And I'm going to put... You know what I'm going to try and do is take the... Can you even see that? I'm going to try and take the screw all the way out. Probably should put like a blade terminal on the wire. Don't have any blade terminals, so get that wire out of the way. Put this wire on here and just try to catch the curve of the wire. Put the screw back in the hole. Luckily it's a magnetic screwdriver. And this kind of stuff can be a pain. But it looks like I got it. And looks like the flange on the head of the screw is more than enough to hold that wire in place. So now I am going to take the other screw out. And I really don't know how they can sell me this capacitor and ship it to me from Hong Kong for $2.47. That's what this cost. To get all the way from Hong Kong to my mailbox, like less than $3. How is that even possible? All right. Wow, you'd think that this wire would be easier than the other wire. Where's my screw? Damn it. You know, this is what happens with these little projects, is you lose things, like screws, and then half your time in the project is just trying to find the screw or the little washer that you dropped. All right, screws in the hole. I know that sounds dirty. I'm going to tuck the wire in a little bit. All right, tighten the screw. And that looks like, I don't really like that too much. I want to tuck the wire behind the screw a little bit more before I tighten the screw. And I want the wires to not have any chance of crossing each other. So, looks to me like we have a capacitor. Now, how are we going to affix this capacitor so it doesn't get screwed up? Well, first of all, I'm going to take my screwdriver and I'm going to pop off the little protective shield from the old capacitor. Wow, that happened. Then I'm going to take one of these zip ties. You can buy these 14-inch zip ties at Home Depot for like $14 for a big bag of them. I mean, you can buy them anywhere, but they're expensive. But if you buy them in bulk, they're not. And it looks like this capacitor is not really long enough for me to use 2 zip ties. So I'm going to use 2 zip ties on one end, because I don't want it to be held in place with just one. Sometimes when you're threading a zip tie, bend the zip tie a little bit, and that way when it curves out the other end, it's a little bit easier. So now we're going to have 2 zip ties on the capacitor. And those should hold it in place really well. I'd like to have one at each end, but this bracket doesn't really have enough space under it to make that happen. So, zip tie here. And another zip tie here. And I think all you're probably seeing is my hands. Woo. Of course, we're going to take our trusty wire cutters, cut the zip ties nice and neat. And now your capacitor is in there pretty tight. It's not going to go anywhere, hopefully. And your connections are tight. And all right, now is what we call the acid test, where I go ahead and see if this thing works or see if it pops the circuit breaker in my house. Now what I'm grunting because this thing really is heavy. And the power cord on it is held in place with a zip tie that I put on there, so I'm going to have to snip that. And plug it in. This is a GFCI outlet, but you know what? I'll run it across to the other side of the kitchen off camera. Make sure the switch is off. Okay, now I didn't test this in advance. I've never done one of these before in my life, so your guess is as good as mine. Say that is a smashing success. So let me try it one more time. And guess what? It is a smashing failure. So it looks like this capacitor blew up just like the other one did. Now, I don't really know why that would happen. Maybe this doesn't have a high enough capacity. Doesn't have enough capacitance. I got it in the ballpark. Maybe this is not a high enough voltage. The other one obviously was bigger in size. This is a cheap, $2.47 Chinese capacitor. So I think the lesson here is I really don't know exactly what capacitor I'm supposed to use. I kind of, fudged it a little bit. So I bought the wrong capacitor and it worked fine and then it blew up, which is exactly what the other one did. So I guess I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board, but assuming that you selected the correct capacitor for your bench grinder, then this would have worked. So if you want to give me a thumbs down for this smashing SMOKY failure, or if you want to give me a thumbs up for showing you how to do it if you got the right capacitor in the first place, I'll leave that up to you. Until then, thanks for watching.